frame and ready. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we are talking about the Canon C70 from the perspective of a C500 Mark II owner, C200 owner, and a Canon EOS R6, which I'm shooting on right now, owner. When I heard the camera come out, I was excited because I was disappointed that the Canon C300 Mark III, which is cheaper than my C500 Mark II by about $5,000, has 4K 120 frames per second dual pixel autofocus in Super 35, and my C500 Mark II doesn't. It doesn't even have it in Super 16. It doesn't have it in a crop 35 mode. With that said, I was literally thinking about what is going to be my workaround. I don't shoot with 120 frames per second a lot, but I still want to have it in my arsenal. I still want to have the ability to do so. And the EOS R5 has that ability, but the overheating and the large file size was a problem for me. So that's the reason why I went with the Canon R6, because when I'm going to use my DSLR, it's going to be for vlogging. 60 frames per second at 4K, I have that on my EOS R6, I have it on my C500 Mark II, I have it on my C200, is great for slowing down normal motion. So when I'm vlogging, I'm never really slowing down fast motion, or when I'm traveling, I'm not really. I can kind of make do with the 60 frames per second, but if you want that high commercial slow motion look and you're slowing down fast motion like a sprinter running or something going really fast, a car going around a corner, that's when 120 frames per second looks really, really good, just because it's slowing down fast motion. With that said, the R5 having overheating issues, just to go get slow motion at $3,800 just wasn't attractive for me. You know, for the most part, I shoot 95% of the time in 24 frames per second. All of my cameras have that ability. Even my Samsung S20 has 120 frames per second, I think, in 4K. So I was like, if I have to, hopefully it's not late at night, I'll have to use my Samsung S20 to pull it off. But when the Canon C70 was announced, it was a surprise, honestly, because Canon is always leaving something out of a camera to make you buy another camera, such as the dilemma I am in, because my C500 is full frame 4K, 60 frames per second in 4K, which I love, and then the C300 Mark III has 120 frames per second at 4K with dual pixel autofocus, and I'm like, wow, okay. And the EOS R5, we know that dilemma has all these specs, 8K RAW, etc., but the camera can't stay on. And for my client work, my video works, the projects I'm going to create, I'm definitely going to be shooting more than 30 minutes, and I don't want to be on set with a camera that's overheating, not when I'm spending $3,800 on it, just not for me. So the Canon C70, why I'm excited about it, is that I love my C500 Mark II. This past weekend, I shot at Venice Beach for the first time in RAW. I wound up shooting more RAW than what was expected, because I met this phenomenal lady who was basically at the skateboard park in a wheelchair skateboarding. She had a modified wheelchair, and I'm actually going to do like a little mini doc on my channel about that. So if you haven't already, turn on notifications, be ready for that video to drop within the next week or so. And yeah, I don't want to deal with the file sizes. If the file sizes were smaller, I would have probably had the video up already. So when you have to, and with the Canon C200, that was a dilemma as well, because with the Canon C200, you only have the option of shooting 4K 12-bit RAW or 4K 420 8-bit, which is the equivalent of like having an option to go 60 miles per hour or 120 miles per hour. Now, mind you, I don't want to crush the speed limit, but I want to go above the speed limit, so I want to at least be able to go 80. And with the C500 Mark II, having that intermediate codec of 422 10-bit internally, that allows you to hit 80 miles per hour, which is great because it's an efficient codec, it's edit friendly, you can color correct, color grade. The 422 10-bit inside of my C500 Mark II, I think, is on the same level of quality as the 4K 12-bit RAW and my C200. Now, this is not going to be one of those really technical analysis video where I'm pulling up charts, just from my experience in terms of looking at the footage and being an owner of both cameras. So when I heard the C70 was coming out with the same sensor as the Canon C300 Mark III with the DGO dual gain output, a little different from ARRI Alexa. It's going to give you a more cleaner image. It's going to be less noise in the shadows, so if you're shooting at night, you're probably going to have a little bit more of a superior image than another Super 35 camera that doesn't have DGO. I'm not going to say it's going to be cleaner than the C500 because the C500 is a full frame camera, which means it has larger photo size, so it has the ability to handle noise a little bit better. And I guess right out the box, maybe it might be a little cleaner, but in terms of noise reduction, I've seen some videos already testing them both out, and it said the C500 Mark II will clean up nicer if it does have a little bit more noise than adding noise reduction on the C300 Mark III. So having 422 10-bit and basically a 1DX body that's like redesigned to be more boxier, having built-in ND filters, having mini XLR inputs, having professional monitoring tools like waveform, peaking, also spot metering and waveform is crucial. The ND filters alone, I was always looking for the upgrade to the Canon C100 Mark II. I've been a Canon shooter for the last 7 years. My first cinema camera was the Canon C100 Mark II, which I had for about 4 to 5 years. That camera went through so much, always worked. I love the camera. Yes, I wish it was able to output 4K. It was a 4K sensor that down-res internally to give you true 1080p. Like, I didn't realize what 1080p was because I was shooting with 5Ds and 70, and though they was good for the time, you can't measure that 1080p against the Canon C100 Mark II. And then if I needed a little bit more juice, if I was doing green screen, I can always add the Atomos Ninja Recorder to get the 422 10-bit out of the Canon C100 Mark II, which I use to also upscale the 1080p to 4K from time to time. And truthfully, the way it works is that if you upscale 1080p to 4K, you can't really tell the difference unless in the same timeline there's 4K footage. Then it's noticeable, like, oh, I can see. That's the reason why when they came out with HD TVs and 1080p TVs, they put them right next to each other so you can really tell the difference. But once you start getting up to 1080p, if you got a high quality 1080p, it's very hard to tell the difference. The 4K benefits from you being able to crop into the image. If you didn't get a close-up and you only got a medium shot, you can do that. So those are the benefits of being able to have a camera that the car mount shifted. Those are the benefits of being able to have a camera that has shooting 4K. With that said, I think the Canon C70 is a camera that any independent filmmaker, creators should definitely take a look into. You're going to be able to shoot in low light. You got the mini XLR inputs, nice audio. You got built-in ND filters. It's also the first Canon RF mount camera, which I'm excited about to see the next level of where this is going to go, because on mirrorless mounts, you can pretty much adapt any lens just because the way it's set up, that on DSLRs, the difference between certain lenses and the flange distance made it impossible to put certain lenses on DSLR bodies. With mirrorless is free. There's going to be a lot of people, adding lenses or creating hot rod kits to put onto the EOS R6, EOS R5 bodies. But now that you have the Canon C70, you have 422 10-bit internally, you have an edit-friendly codec. It uses 2 SD card slot UHS-2, which is dope because that's a cheap card. Like my Canon C200 uses CFast cards. My 512 CFast card was like $600 when it first came out. My C500 Mark II uses CF Express cards. Those are $699 for a 512. So for me, the C70 is going to have me sell my C200 and be my B camera to my C500 and be my main travel vacation camera. When I go out the country, I'll have that, and I have my Canon EOS R6 to take pictures. But Canon, bravo, well done. You saved me money because I didn't want to have to buy the Canon C300 Mark III just to get 120 frames per second. So without question, this is the reason why my C70 pre-order camera. So also, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Are you going to get the Canon C70? You think there's some better options out there? I know the Sony a7S III has the amazing low light abilities, which will help out right now as I pull into my parking garage. I'm curious, do you think there's a better option? What are you shooting? At the end of the day, we know there's no such thing as a perfect camera. It's just, what is the perfect camera for what you're doing? And the C70 is for me. Yeah, so let me know your feedback down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up if you found this video helpful. And until next time, be courageous, stay creative, and get on your grind.